Welcome to the course, How to Run a Successful Group. We'll first review the importance of identifying values and group objectives, and then move to creating a structure for your group. We'll then focus on how to work toward an inclusive and transparent decision-making process. Lastly, we'll investigate models of leadership. Identifying your group values and writing a values statement is an important first step. What brings you to this work? What kind of world are you working to build? Consider taking time with the people you're starting off with to talk about the shared values that will shape your work and your goals. Whether they're simple or subject to change over time, a values statement and clear objectives can help you ensure that you are staying on track with what you started with your indivisible group. This can help with recruitment and building your group over time. It will also help bring in members around a common culture and purpose. Take time to include input from all people in your group. If it's helpful, you can use Indivisible, a practical guide for fixing our democracy, as a starting point when creating your value statement and objectives. The link to it is included in the course handout. The best and most clear value statements are those that are straight to the point and identify goals. So we recommend making them around 1 to 3 sentences in length. It's also useful to revisit your values and objectives at least once a year to make sure your overall work and team culture are still accurately reflected in those guiding statements. Creating a structure for your group. The best structure for your group will depend on your size, your goals, and the kind of work you're trying to do. Here are 4 options that we recommend trying out if you're not sure where to start. Putting together a steering committee or leadership team of 3 to 5 people who are committed to giving significant time and energy to your group over time is a great place to start. These people may take on specific roles centered around the day-to-day tasks of running the group, such as operations, communications, social media, finances, and so forth. Working groups can focus on different issue areas or needs of the group as a whole and meet regularly. You may want working groups to focus on national core advocacy issues like democracy reform and economic justice, but if you're hoping to focus some of your time on state or local work, you might instead shape your working groups around different levels of local government and the issues or legislation they control. You may also want a working group focus on recruitment, building the group's membership over time, onboarding new members, and holding regular one-on-ones with existing and new members to build strong relationships across the group. All groups will benefit from devoting specific attention to building an inclusive group culture that is safe, welcoming, and where people of marginalized identities will feel empowered to do their activism. To meet this goal, some groups find it helpful to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion working group or an accessibility working group that the rest of the group consults with and takes input from time to guide on broader choices. Over time, your group will grow as members join working groups, take on leadership roles, and determine or reshape new work areas. It's okay to start small. At the same time, some group members may not have the capacity to participate in working groups or take on leadership roles right away and may only participate in group-wide actions. That's okay too. Volunteer burnout is real. If your calls to action are too numerous and your group structures are too unfocused, you may lose people. People only have so much time to give, and they want to feel like their time is respected and appreciated. So again, start small and grow from where you are. One tactic that helps with refocusing group members is to hold effective one-on-ones with them. Take our Holding One-on-One course to learn more. As your group gets started and grows, there will be many decisions to make. If your decision-making process is inclusive and transparent, that will help build trust and commitment over time. Here are some questions to ask and best practices to consider to inform the ways your decision-making process unfolds. What are your legislative priorities or other group objectives? How do they shape the decisions that you're making? Have a list of priorities keeps your membership informed and focused. When holding a meeting, does someone take notes? How do we make those notes accessible to people who aren't there? How can those documents and resources be available to anyone who needs them without overwhelming people with information? When it's time to make a big decision, how do you determine who should be at the table to shape that decision? How do you gather input from those who won't be present, but may have a stake in the decision later on or be influenced by it? What pathways do members have to give feedback at any point in time, and what are you doing to express that feedback in a welcome and safe way? Who needs to access membership contact information, and how can you assure that it's accessible but secure? And how can we shape the work and cultivate partnership and encourage leadership development?
Leadership development is the cornerstone of a successful group. Let's explore the different models of leadership.
On your screen, you can see a model with just one leader, because sometimes we think leadership is about being the person that everyone goes to. How does it feel to be the dot in the middle of those arrows? I imagine that person feels a lot of weight on their shoulders. How does it feel to be one of the arrows that can't get through? People in the group don't feel heard, plus lines of communication with this kind of model is inefficient. And what happens if the dot in the middle should disappear? Often, decision-making comes to a halt, there's no leadership, and the group can't continue. Sometimes we think we don't need leadership because we're all leaders, and that's what this looks like. In this case, who's responsible for coordinating everyone? And who's responsible for focusing on the good of the whole, not just one particular part? With whom does the buck stop? The answers are, we don't know. That's the downside of this model. Which brings us to the top-down approach. In this model, hierarchy is used to make it clear who's in charge and who just has to get it done, whether you agree or not. We often see this model as an org chart in corporate settings. But how is power distributed in this model? It's not. Instead, it's all concentrated. What effect does this structure have on agency, hope, and creativity? It's a top-down approach that can stifle ownership and participation from others. However, there is one last model we want to show you, the snowflake. Leaders develop other leaders who in turn develop other leaders. It's iterative and decentralized. Although you may be the dot in the middle, your success depends on developing the leadership of others. This is a sustainable structure that encourages leadership development. People will feel like part of the movement. The person in the middle coordinates with the 4 medium dots who in turn train others who manage small teams. This is a model that provides clear communication and messaging streams across the entire organization. There are ample opportunities for people to become leaders. To recap this course, we covered identifying your values and writing a values statement, creating a structure for your group, working toward an inclusive and transparent decision-making process, and investigating models of leadership, all in the hopes of running a successful group.